Hello and welcome to Game Week 36 of the Premier League season. I'm Conal McCabe, joined by my co-host Lucas Dzinski, and once again we're going to be looking and analysing every single Premier League game, including predictions, official tips, and on top of that discussing all of the biggest stories around the world of football. Lucas, hope you're doing well. There's only one place for us to start, mate, and it's with the action last night in terms of the Europa League. Give us your thoughts on two English clubs making that final.
I mean, I've said it before, and I really wanted to see this. I compared it to South Park, Timmy and Jimmy Wright fighting it out in the final, and this is what this is what it's going to come down to. It's actually mental that two teams finishing like in the bottom five in the Premier League are going to be playing Champions League next season. It's mental, and for the first ever time, there's going to be 6 English teams in Champions League, which is crazy. And I feel like once you get that many teams in, it's going to be hard to drop out that coefficient. So I feel like for the next 5 years or however long, like there's going to be 5 teams in the 5 teams in the Champions League and the Premier League, which is really good for the league, I guess.
Yeah, really good for English football and makes you more keen to watch it. I mean, in terms of it, what I would say is obviously United and Spurs have had dreadful seasons, and the Timmy and Jimmy anecdote is not irrelevant. I mean, what I would say is both of them, however, should be extremely proud in terms of what they've done of making the final. When the quarterfinal draw was made, I didn't see I didn't see either English club making the final. So the fact that they both have, look, in the face of really poor seasons,
I mean, they haven't exactly played any super hard teams to get there, though, right?
I'd question that. Look, we're not playing Barcelona. But you still, Bodo Glimt have beat some very, very big sides.
Yeah.
Bilbao were the tournament favourites. And United and Spurs didn't just beat them, by the way. They smashed both of them out the park. For Tottenham, they found pragmatism at just the right time. Did a really good job on Frankfurt and on Bodo Glimt. And again, should be really pleased to be there. And United obviously pulling out in the fire and the way they did against Lyon in the quarterfinal was just absolutely epic. And what I would say is, I've heard Gabriel Bandohor, I think it is on TalkSport, who's spitting his dummy out a little bit, but I think mainly because it's sour grapes, because Villa are going to finish 6th and aren't going to make it into the Champions League. But he's saying, clubs can't lose X number of games in the Premier League and still get to the Champions League. That just doesn't make sense. Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy, it is, but it's happened. So
the rules are the rules, and clubs know at the start of the season there's multiple avenues into the Champions League. Yeah. You can either do it through your league position, or you can do it through winning trophies, and we should always glorify and support winning trophies over anything else, in my opinion. United and Spurs both knew their eggs were in this basket from a long way out. Obviously prioritise the competition, and whichever of them makes it to the Champions League, be it United or Spurs, they both fully deserve it. In terms of this game, I would also say this game is massive. I don't know who's going to win it, but it is massive because whoever wins not only has Champions League football, not ever has a load of money to work with. United are short of money. United need money. And Spurs, with Daniel Levy still at the helm, will never turn down a few pennies. And of course, in terms of attracting the biggest players that they need in terms of Champions League football.
Yeah, that's the most important part.
This game is everything. For the loser, they're simply a 15th, 16th place Premier League side. So this game is massive. The winner can, the opportunity.
And it's Ange's last game, right? Probably.
Who knows on that front? But, in terms, if they lose, definitely. But for the winner, it's a real chance and opportunity to step forward next season. For the loser, is it mid-table mediocrity for how long? So the game itself is massive. In one word, who's going to win it?
I think United probably slight favourites.
I can't do any better than that. Love it. Let's move on and talk about the Premier League. We start with Fulham versus Everton. I mean, to me, it seems a bit of a choker for Fulham. They're now in the bottom half. They're now behind the likes of Brentford, obviously Brighton, Bournemouth. I mean, obviously people were talking up Fulham and Marco Silva all season. Now that they're in the bottom half, is it actually even a good season anymore?
I don't think so. They had a really good start. They were playing some really good football, but the inconsistency just killed the season. And this is coming from a Brentford fan. Yeah, you know how much I hate Fulham. They've been playing well, and there's been a lot of games where they've just not turned up. Like The last game I can remember is the game at Chelsea when they played at home. They were 1-0 up and then just kind of stopped playing. They looked like the way better, much better team than Chelsea. Just kind of like stopped weirdly. And look, it's those 5 margins that look, if they had an extra like 2 wins, they could have been extra 2 wins. That would put them up to 8th. All of a sudden in European football, right? It just shows you this league is down to marginal gains, and I feel like I thought Silva could do the business, but clearly not. And look now, there were there were obviously rumours before that he was going to go to Saudi. Now they're coming back. Maybe now he's just had enough and he's just going to take the leap.
Yeah, potentially. What about this game? How do you see it going?
To be honest, I feel like Fulham should win this. They still have some kind of outside chance to make European football. It's really hard, the permutations. I've tried to get my head around it, but it's it's a bit of a
minefield.
Yeah, a bit of a minefield to put it one way. But there could be potentially top 9 in the league, right? So they still need to be pushing for all the wins they can get. Even top 10 maybe, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Definitely top 8, top 9 possibility depending who wins, etc.
Yep.
So no, they're going to be going for it. I don't have a bet myself, but I have Fulham as favourites, 0.44 goals better than Everton.
Okay.
And also Everton, they gave away 2-0 leads. Obviously struggling, I wouldn't say struggling, but Tarkowski is such a big miss for them. He's out for the whole season, so I feel like Fulham can get something in, probably get a win here, bounce back.
I'm leaving it as well. I don't have an official tip. My gut feeling is that it can end up a draw. I wouldn't be surprised if Everton sat in and got a result. Yeah. Again, both sides here. Obviously, Everton don't have a huge amount to play for. Fulham, yeah, I'm not completely convinced by them at the moment, so I'll sit on the fence. Ipswich versus Brentford. I mean, I just have to mention this because I don't know if all of our thousands upon thousands of listeners, any of them recall from the last podcast me talking up Julio Enciso in an Ipswich.
No, I don't think you mentioned him.
Yeah. And looking at his shots market, looking at his goals market, after saying it on the pod, not putting it up as an official tip is devastating. Hopefully some of you did take that nugget of information and use it. But yeah, gutted, absolutely gutted on that one. However, I'll keep going because I do have a bet on this game. Not only a bet, I've got a nap. Ipswich, do you know what their record is of the last 7 games at home?
No.
Lost 7. All right. Brentford have won 3 out of the last 4.
We've got one of the best away records, actually. So
it's doing really, really well. And the one they didn't was Arsenal. B's pushing for Europe. They're really in that race now, and this is must-win for Brentford. They will be really going for this, whereas Ipswich obviously are down with little to play for. So I'm going Brentford -1 on the Asian handicap at 2.01. There's no way for me Brentford don't win this game, right? So if Brentford win this game, again, we've effectively got a free swing there. Because if Brentford win by 1 goal, we get our money back. If Brentford then go on and win by 2, 3 or 4, which I think they will do, then we make profit. Our bet wins. Brentford have gone away to the likes of Southampton, beaten 4-0, I believe. So, these kind of games are very suited to Brentford. Ipswich will come out and play and leave space in behind, and the likes of Mbeumo and Shade down the flanks, who are both in good form, should rip them apart. So really happy with this bet, tipping up Brentford -1 on the Asian.
Got nothing on this game, to be honest. I'm just happy to sit back and watch. I got Brighton. I got Brentford 0.55 goals better. So yeah, I don't really agree with your play. I don't think we're that much better than Ipswich, but saying I expect Brentford to win this and come out firing. Might need to do a triple Brentford or even quadruple Brentford on the whole fantasy, bringing Frank and Shard in as well as Visser and Mbeumo.
Yeah, I brought Shard in. You're saying that, so you're obviously expecting Brentford goals.
Yeah,
I would.
My heart's saying goals, but
I think you need to have more faith in your team. Let's move on. Look at Southampton, Man City. What's the model saying?
Got Southampton 1.26 goals worse than City. I mean, got nothing on this game, to be honest.
Yep. We can move on. I mean, market looks about
Yeah.
right to me. I think City will win fairly comfortably. I don't think
Yeah.
they'll. I wouldn't, for those people thinking City might score 4 or 5, I necessarily wouldn't advise that. But
I mean, there is maybe a small angle you can play. Like, I mean, my model says Southampton are 1.26 goals worse, but you can get Southampton +2 at 1.97. So I personally wouldn't bet on it because there's so many motivational factors that come in which will affect if there was something more to play, if this game was maybe like, I don't know, 10 games ago, then yeah, you probably can play that considering it's like quite big value. But motivational factors mad, right? Like Southampton, just they're gone, right? Like the manager might be rotating, trying different players out for the champ or whatever, the caretaker, who knows. City obviously going to be going for it because they want to, they're still not guaranteed Champions League places, really, to be honest. So they're going to have to be going for it. And also they kind of want to finish above Arsenal as well.
yeah, my gut feeling is that City will win this game without getting out of second gear, though. I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, they weren't great against Wolves.
Yeah,
They
I think if
got
you're
a bit
looking
lucky,
for
to be honest.
if you're looking for an angle, maybe even a correct score of 0-2 here, I would suggest is a little bit of a runner, depending on what price you get. I think this game has got 2-0 City written all over it, where they'll leave nothing to chance and win the game, but won't overexert themselves, particularly with other tougher games in the FA Cup final still to play. Wolves versus Brighton. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Wolves are unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. They've won, before they played City, they'd won 6 games in a row. And against City, they were bang unlucky. I mean, you look at that huge chance in the first half, hit the post, keeper made a good save. And if that had gone in, you have to figure that they'd have potentially gone on and done something there. They're playing at home against a Brighton side who, for me, still don't feel like they're the same side. And Wolves here at 2.75, I just can't have that price. I just think it's too high for a home side. I think that, as I say, with their recent record, their manager is pulling up trees. And again, am I completely convinced that Wolves are going to win this game? No. But again, at the price, 2.75 for the home win is too high. So I'm putting that up as an official tip.
Yeah, my model has it as like to be a draw, like not much between the two teams. So I understand your angle, but I'm just gonna leave this.
Cool. We move on. We've got Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. What is the model saying for us?
Big game in a European push for both teams. To be honest, it's a must win for both. I'd say. Bournemouth slight favourites, like 0.27. So I do expect it to be a really tight game. I think Bournemouth might edge it, but I think it's probably going to be a draw, I feel like Bournemouth played really, really well against Arsenal, but I just feel like Arsenal almost didn't turn up. So not sure
Even
if you
though
can
they
look
played
into
a
it.
really strong side, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if their head was gone or anything like that, like focusing on the Champions League. But I mean, look, they still played well. Second goal, Bournemouth scored. Not sure if it should be allowed, to be honest. Bit dubious. Thought that was pretty much an elbow, but
Cost me my tip, by the way. Yep.
yeah, cost me a big acca as well. To be honest, Arsenal not winning.
Oh, that's why you brought it up. Okay.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I feel like Bournemouth could edge it, but I feel like this is going to end up being a draw. But this is a must-win for both teams, right? So it could be quite an interesting game.
Did you mention what the model said?
Yeah, 0.27 goals.
Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, both Villa need to win if they want to be even in the contention Champions League, and Bournemouth need to win if they want to play in some kind of European competition. So big game, but yeah, don't have anything.
Same, I'm not touching this one with a barge pole. It's a punter's nightmare. This game could be absolutely anything. No result would surprise me here. Bournemouth took advantage of a weak Arsenal, but have still registered pretty poor results recently at home to the Bees, at home to Ipswich. I also just don't trust Villa away. I have max trust in Villa at home. I don't trust Villa away. So as you say, there's a lot on the line here with the race for Europe. The result could be anything. I'm going to leave it. If you really, really push me, I'd probably say a draw, even though it doesn't do either side much good. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that one. We look at Newcastle versus Chelsea. I mean, Cole Palmer right back to his best against Liverpool. He was unplayable. On form, on his day, is he the best player in the Premier League?
No, Abuemo's and then this and then Shard. Look, he is obviously. Look, he's had a really
is he better than
patch.
Salah? Is he better than anyone else?
I don't know. Like the first part of the season, he was like unbelievable, right? And then last season as well. So it's yeah. I mean, look, a great player can play well through a bad patch, right? I mean, saying that, like, Salah's got such a good team around him, Palmer doesn't, right? So perhaps if Palmer was in a Liverpool team or City team, he'd be, he wouldn't have that rough patch, right?
Imagine that. Wow. That's scary.
But yeah, I mean, this is a massive game. I have Newcastle favourites by 0.4 goals, so I feel like Newcastle should win this. I was frustrated last week because obviously I backed Liverpool to plus quarter, so I just needed a draw. But they did rotate. Margaret still fancied them. Price came in, but like Chelsea just, I don't know, all of a sudden turned up. Like previous weeks they were horrendous, and then all of a sudden they turned up against Liverpool. So it was a bit frustrating. I feel like Newcastle's going to be a tougher game for them though.
Agree. I mean, yeah, I think you're right with Palmer. And you talk about Chelsea turning up. I think Palmer is just so fundamental to Chelsea. When Palmer turns up, Chelsea turn up. His aura, his swagger, the way he moves around the pitch, his arrogance. I just think he, on song, is literally the full package. Unbelievable football.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're saying he's been through a rough patch, but he's still on 15 goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if he'd been at it all season, he could have been on close to double that.
Yeah.
But still, incredible season overall, and just incredible player. In terms of this game, I think Chelsea will, as I say, coming out of the dip they were in for a large period. For me, I was thinking Newcastle looked a tad skinny, actually on the markets at 2.1. I'm not advocating a bet on it, but at the prices, I'd be more inclined to go on the Chelsea handicap than the Newcastle. Move on, talk about United versus West Ham. And I've got a bet. And I can't believe I've finally been able to do this. It's only taking us, till game week 36 before I think for the first time I can say...
Back in United?
Back Manchester United.
Why? They've
let me walk you through it, right? Currently riding a crest of the wave. On unbelievable form. We have a few weeks before the Europa now, so it's not going to be resting players too much in the line of sight. We've got Ahmad back, which is a massive, massive plus, right? He is, along with Bruno, our best player, right? He's an incredible footballer, Ahmad, and he's going to be back amongst the goals here. West Ham don't look up to much at all. United, I was surprised at the price. I thought United would be like 1.6, 1.7, or even 1.7, 1.8 here. But you can get United at even money, twos, and I'm happy to back it. I would also suggest having a look at I've just mentioned it, having a look at the Ahmad goals markets, because I think he can do the business here. So that's an official tip.
Yeah, got no tip for me. I got the price about right on United. I got the model at 0.54. United better than West Ham, so I expect United to win. But look, see what squad they put out. Right, they could easily rotate quite heavily just to give the players a rest, and then maybe from the following week, then they'll put out a stronger team.
Maybe. I mean, the only other tiny thing to mention: Mason Mount did the best thing he's ever done in years last night.
What score? Oh, score against Brentford last week.
But the way that he took his goals, not against. I mean, the Brentford was the start of it, right? But the two goals last night. Absolutely sensational, and give you that glimpse of the Mason Mount of old. I don't know whether he can sustain the form, and I definitely worry about him as a long-term candidate with regards to his injuries. But he's fully fit right now, and I think that suddenly with Ahmad back, with him playing his way into form, I'm not saying we've got a squad there, but suddenly it looks like there are more and more glimmers of hope popping up all over the place. So I would definitely start Mount and Ahmad for this game. Let them both continue the trajectories they're on. Højlund has notched again. I've talked about the importance of him continuing to score. So, yeah, I'm not getting confident or optimistic, but I think United at even money is a bet here. Let's talk about Forest versus Leicester. I mean, obviously, Leicester at home on paper is a great fixture when you're trying to cement Champions League football. However, I've lived in the area. These two hate each other. Like, absolutely despise each other. So Leicester would love nothing more than to derail Forest's Champions League bid. Is there any way they can do it?
I think so. I think Forest were really lucky to get a draw against Palace. Obviously, I think both of us were on it. It was quite frustrating. Palace were by far the better team. Forest got some injuries. Murillo's out now, right? At the back, and he's been like...
Is Hudson-Odoi back?
I think he's injured as well, isn't he?
He was injured. I don't know if he's back yet.
But anyway, Murillo's like by far the most important player for them at the back, right? If not the team, and he's going to be out this game. And like I said, like Forest have, they've been massively overperforming for like slowly kind of coming back to where they should be. Saying that, they got some really easy fixtures, so they could still finish in the top 5, depending obviously what the other teams do. But it's Leicester. I mean, I got Forest. Even when I'm saying the Forest overperforming, Leicester are just horrendous, and I have Forest a whole 1 goal better than Leicester. So despite all the injuries, despite the rivalry, I still expect them to win this.
Okay, not an official tip. Not tipping anything yet.
Nope.
Okay. I mean, in terms of Murillo, there's no doubting how good a season he's had. I don't know if I'd say he's by far the most important. You look at Milenkovic, you look at Aina, even Nico Williams, who's had an incredible season. I think that almost any of them could realistically have a shout for team of the season, including Matt Sells, of course. I think the key thing, though, is once you take one leg of the table out, the whole lot can fall down. And I think that's definitely a concern there. Definitely worth, if you're looking at this game, check on the fitness levels of the Forest players as well, because Hudson-Odoi is a big loss for them when they don't have the same threat of him and Elanga down both sides. However, I think they will get over the line, but I think they'll get over it very narrowly, 1-0. I'm quite confident on the correct score, actually. I was tempted to tip it up, but I won't. But I see it being a nervy 1-0 home win, but hard to touch Forest at the prices. Let's talk about Tottenham versus Crystal Palace. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be my nap. So I was looking at the Spurs lineup yesterday against Bodo Glimt, whatever they're called, / they had a really good lineup, to be honest. Like the squad was like, I'd say like full strength probably, apart from obviously Son's bit injured, etc. But they didn't really play well. They barely beat them on XG. And also, this game's 3 days later, right? So they have obviously probably, I don't know, flew back yesterday. So they have today, Friday, Saturday, and then they're playing on Sunday, right? Whereas Palace have had the whole week. Palace are going to put out a strong team, similar to Forest. I think this is going to be the last game, right? This is the last game before the Cup final on Saturday. So I'm really being impressed with Palace. I think they're a really good team. And I think this is going to be my nap for the week. I backed Palace 0 on Asian handicap. So basically what that means is you get your money back if it's a draw. So look, if they do draw, you get money back. If Palace win, you win. Got that at evens early in the week. It's come down to like 1.9 now. I think that's still value, but I jump on it basically now because I expect that price to come in closer to kick-off. And also, look, Spurs are going to be rotating players, right? They're not going to be risking anyone. They just played a tough game in Norway, I'd say. So there's likely to be a rotation, whereas Palace are going to go full strength.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of agree in terms of Palace being impressive. You look at their XG against Forest, it was way, way, way superior. They're on a great run. Obviously, still, you know, basking in the accomplishment of making the FA Cup final. So they've done exceptionally well. You know how big a fan I am of Glasner as well. In terms of Spurs, I think, again, you know, as mentioned previously, they've leaned towards pragmatism when they've needed to at just the right time in the Europa. And I think Ange as well, had also a little bit like a light bulb's gone off in his head in terms of, you know, acting the way he should. Suddenly he's making a point of praising the fans, trying to get the fans on side. He's giving better interviews.
Desperate man.
A desperate man, or a man that's finally understood that he wasn't doing things in the most optimal way, whichever way
Why now then?
you want to look at it. Well, I mean, this is I think partly getting to the final of the Europa League, and getting close in the Europa League and sensing that there's a huge opportunity there definitely gives a more optimistic feeling, which I think can play a role in terms of that. But I think that, and yeah, I think that Spurs are in a better place and he is in a better place. Whether he'll stay or not, I really don't know. But I think he's doing what he can at this late stage, desperation or otherwise. But in this game, I would probably lean towards Palace, actually. It's kind of a come-down game for Spurs. It was a little bit like that for United after the Bilbao game at home to Wolves. I spoke to a few fans that said the atmosphere was like a funeral home in there, just there was because of the come-down feeling, and I think it might be similar in this game. So I would lean towards Palace if I was going to have a bet, but I don't have an official tip on it. Finally, we talk about Liverpool versus Arsenal. I think, you know, Arsenal, we have to talk. I know that you've got thoughts on the Arteta interviews afterwards. How do you rate their season now? That effectively it's all done and dusted for them.
Yeah, I think the last few years they've just been a bit shocking, right? The amount of money they spent and everything for them to be kind of bottling it all the time, right? Arteta again, like, look, he's just sometimes he just needs to take stuff on the chin and be the bigger person, but he never does that. He came out saying that Arsenal are the best team in the competition. Okay, if they are, then why they're not in the final? He also said, was it that Liverpool won the league with whatever 80-something points? We had 92 whatever last season, so we'd have won it this season. I'm like, well, why didn't you get 92 points then? Like I just honestly despise him. He just doesn't admit when the team's just not good. There's always an excuse, always. Saying
despise. That's a strong word. Have you got like a dartboard? I don't think Arteta's face on it, or like what?
Do you think there's, if you ask any fan that's not an Arsenal fan, do you think they'll rate Arteta? As in, like, have a high opinion of him as a person, like the way he, I don't know, everything about him. No one likes him.
He's not the most likable.
Exactly.
He's not great in interviews in terms of he's very short a lot of the time. However, what I would say is it's a different view. In terms of what he said in the interview, you know, couldn't be prouder. We were the best team. There's like his views are a little bit reminiscent of, and I'm not comparing him to these managers, right? He's nowhere near the level of these managers before you jump down my throat. But it reminds me a lot of the sort of interviews that Ferguson used to give or Shankly used to give in terms of what Ferguson and Shankly would always do, right? They'd stand by their team at all costs. It doesn't mean they're standing by them in the dressing room and we don't know what's happening there, right? But Bill Shankly always used to say of Liverpool, anytime they lost a game, right, he'd be like, they're not better than us, they were just lucky. They were like, they didn't deserve it at all. And then when Liverpool won a game, he'd be like, they were brilliant. They were an unbelievable team and my boys beat them. Like that's kind of the Shankly approach, right? And the Ferguson approach was, you know, he'd chuck teacups around the dressing room, but in public, he'd back them to the hilt. So we don't know what Arteta's doing in that. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's not to say he's good enough to lace the other two's boots, but it's just, I don't mind that interview so much, actually. In terms of Arsenal's season, what I would say is there was expectancy this year, right? The last 2 years there haven't been. There was expectancy this year, and it has to go down as a disappointing season. However, people saying that Arsenal are at crossroads, I don't necessarily agree with. I still think they are on an upward trajectory. They've just brought Barella in as a director of football. There's clearly a huge summer incoming, right? People are saying Arsenal need to buy a striker. Forget that. They will buy a striker this summer. This will happen. This is the sole reason they bought.
Nah, they got Havertz. They're fine. And Jesus.
They've bought Barella in for a reason, and that is to not. It won't just be a striker. They'll buy other players, by the way, but a striker will be top of the list, and I think it'll be done soon. I think it'll be done in the next month, from murmurings and stuff that I've heard. So ultimately, I think that that Arsenal aren't quite at that crossroads period yet that a lot of journalists are talking them up to be at. However, next year they have to win. Absolutely have to win. If they don't win next year, then they seriously are at a crossroads, and they have to analyse whether they're sticking with Arteta or not, and maybe do they need a clear out or whatever. So they're going to have a big summer, but it's off the back of a disappointing season, and they have to win next year. This must happen, in my view. In terms of the game, I think it's a bit of a dead rubber, actually. Liverpool-Arsenal looks nice on paper, but Liverpool are probably on the beach, and they just weren't at it against Chelsea. And Arsenal, I think, will just they just don't need the game. They're just coming to terms with being knocked out of the Champions League, and it's just Champions League football is secure for them. I still think they'll probably finish second, second or third. It doesn't really matter, does it? But they'll finish.
I think they still want to finish above City.
I guess
those two, right?
I guess, but in terms of this game, again, I'm not really keen to touch it without knowing the mentality of both sides here. So
I think after that Liverpool game against Chelsea, I'm not going to back Liverpool at all.
Exactly. So I'll sit on the fence. A draw, point takes Arsenal closer to second, and that would probably be my shout for it. Cool. Let's look at the overall. I mean, you've only got one bet this week, then, right?
Yeah, for me, look, it's another. I say weird end to the season now, where there's a lot of unknowns around motivation and stuff. So for me, the only nap really is Palace 0 against Tottenham at 1.9.
Cool. For me, I've got 3 tips. The first one is Brentford away at Ipswich. I'm backing Brentford at -1 on the Asian handicap, which means that if Brentford win by exactly 1 goal, we get our money back as a refund. If Brentford draw or lose, we lose the bet. But if Brentford win by 2 goals plus, then, which I fully expect them to do, then we will win the bet. That's 2.01, so just above even money. My second tip is Wolves at home to Brighton. I expect Wolves to win, which you can get at 2.75. And finally, I am going for United at home to West Ham at even money at 2.0. So 3 tips there. Again, I'd advocate putting half a point on the accumulator of all 3, which we had a 12-1 shot, which was 2 for 2 last week, and then we got a tad unfortunate in terms of the elbow goal. So I think 10-1 we can come in and have another shot here. So make sure your main bets are singles, because that's obviously the most optimal way to bet, but would not put anyone off having a little tickle on the 10-1 acca. And that's it from us. Enjoy another week of Premier League football, because they won't be around for much longer for this season. And we will see you on the other side. Have a good one.
Cheers.